Hey, hello everyone. Welcome to my channel. My name is Sugat Nayak and I am currently working as a product manager at PayPal. I'm starting a series of product management interview experience where I will be talking to various product managers and get to know their entire journey and how they landed in a great product companies. This is the first episode where we have Tilak Vaidya with us, who is currently working as a product manager at Intuit. In this video, we'll be going through his entire journey, how he pivoted from a development background to a product role at Intuit. What were the various interview rounds and how to come up with product manager resume. Keep watching the video till end because Tilak will also be sharing how to get into Intuit. If you are here for the first time, please like, share and subscribe this channel because I will be uploading many more contents related to product management and interview experiences. So let's get started. Hey, hello everyone. Welcome to Product Management Interview Experiences. And today we have Tilak Vaidya with us. Welcome Tilak.
Thanks, Sugat. Thank you for having me here.
Perfect. So Tilak is currently working as a product manager and at Intuit, and in this video, we're gonna be listening to him about his entire experience and how he cracked into Intuit. So over to you, Tilak. Why don't you get started and introduce yourself?
Sure. So, just a little bit about myself. I am a product manager at Intuit. Been working here for the last 10 months or so. Uh, I started off doing my BTech in computer science at this college called VJTI in Mumbai. After which, I worked for around a couple of years in technology consulting at Deloitte, mostly to do with data warehousing for a Canadian client in the telecom sector. After that, I did my MBA at this college called SPJMR Mumbai. That so that you know very well. And after all that, I reached into it as a product manager.
Perfect. Great to know about your journey, Tilak. So moving on to our first question, that can you share us your entire experience of converting your journey into it as a product manager? So would love to hear that what were the different kind of interview experience, how you prepared for this and your entire journey.
Sure. First, take a bit of a bird's eye view. So I was very lucky to get into it through our campus placement process. Uh, it was It was pretty much a two-round process. The first part of it was a case study submission. We had been given a case study 2 to 3 weeks before our actual interviews, and we had been asked to solve it. Post a submission and a round of CV shortlisting, they had taken a few candidates for a personal interview round, where I was interviewed by a group product manager and a senior product manager, and post this interview round is where I actually got the offer for my internship. Uh, so I'll dive into each one of these steps one by one. To begin with the case study. So the case study was to do with one of Intuit's products. The problem statement that was given to us was to increase the revenue drastically for one of Intuit's products over a period of the next 6 months. It was a pretty open-ended question. We had been given full freedom to make our own assumptions as long as we stated them correctly, submit in a format of our own choosing. Uh, what I did was I tried to focus as much as possible on the problem space more than the solution space itself. And this was also a consequence of how I had prepped for my product management interviews. Uh, One major source of inspiration was this book called The Lean Product Playbook, which funnily enough was written by one of Intuit's ex-employees, which gives us a framework to think about product management as a process of solving problems for a particular target customer. So I applied that framework to the problem statement that was given and submitted a PowerPoint presentation, uh, which was then used as a major source of questions in round two, which was the personal interview. So this was about the case study aspect. after that came the personal interview. So uh, it was a pretty I would say a very smooth process where they initially started with asking me question like tell me about yourself, your work experience, etc. One of the first things that I remember them asking me was they wanted me to share a couple of projects that I had learned a lot from. That's where I actually introduced one development project that I had done during my engineering days. So this was an Android application that I had worked along with my friends for. This was published on the Play Store, and we had around 250,000 plus downloads. So they were very interested in the process of how we went about making that app, what was my contribution to it, if I was the product manager for that application now, how would I approach it, etc. Post post this entire round of questioning, the next uh, piece was questions on the case study that I spoke about earlier. Uh, so they asked me, like they went into depth of my submission. So in a PowerPoint presentation, there's only so much that you can cover, but they asked me to cover a little bit more into what was my approach for solving, who would be my target customer, how I would go about segmenting my customers, how I would prioritize my ideas and implement them in a phased approach, etc. All this was almost like a discussion than an interview, I would say. I was on the whiteboard. In those days, we had these like physical settings where we could do that kind of thing. So they had asked me to go on the whiteboard, like visualize my ideas into different concepts, and yeah, so a lot of questioning around what problem I was solving and who was the customer that I was solving the problem for with my case study. After that, they asked me why I wanted to join into it, and this was possibly my longest answer. Like, forget the great reviews, forget the culture, but one thing that really sold me on Intuit was their pre-placement talk. I feel like as MBA students, we go through a lot of similar talks, and somehow it wasn't at all generic. Like what they spoke about their design thinking or their way of working really resonated with what I had learned in my own MBA sessions. So and that was pretty much it. Then they asked me if I had any questions for the company, and that was the end of round two.
Hey, great. I think that was pretty straightforward. Like just first round was more about the case studies where you had to pick the one of the Intuit products and try to plan it, and the second was more deep diving into that case studies followed by some other product related questions. So great, Tilak. So I think this seems to be a on-campus interviews. So
Mhm.
how is the process different for the off-campus, like lateral hires, people who want to just direct? Is it the kind of same 2 rounds and done, or there are different number of rounds, and or the interview process is different for the off-campus candidates?
Yeah, so there are similarities, but also a few differences. So if I break it down into three aspects, one is how do you actually get shortlisted for the into the like entered into the process itself. The second part is the case study, and the third part is the interview or multiple interviews, as the case may be. So when we talk about the first part, which is how do you even be part of this process, for us, obviously, since it was campus placements, we had a set of eligibility criteria depending on our specialization. But in general, if it's a lateral hire, a referral is one of the best ways to get into it. In fact, I know for a fact that whenever we are recruiting, my manager or anyone else from our staff team is always encouraging us to refer more and more candidates, and a large chunk of our recruits comes from this process. So that's how you enter into the process. The case study is what we were told is common across all levels. So from a PM1 candidate like me to a director, everyone has to submit a case study. This is what we call like the submission, as well as what the questions that they ask in the interview is what we call a craft demonstration, which is they want us to demonstrate the skills that they want to recruit us for, and the case study plays a big role in that. So that's something that's common across all. One thing that was different for me is that I had just one round of personal interview. However, there may be many more rounds for lateral hires. Uh, so we may have a round with a team member. We may have a round with the director of whatever function that you are working for. So that would be the third big difference, which is I had just one round versus multiple rounds for lateral hires. But other than that, I feel like the core of the process was pretty similar for me. Probably just was over a shortened time period.
Got it. Thanks, Tilak. So, do HR share any sort of preparatory note for this lateral hires? Is there any link or does there any document which exists where they tell about the entire interview process?
Actually, for sure. In fact, if I can bring my screen up,
Sure.
let me share my screen. Oh, can you give me the rights to share the screen?
Sure, absolutely.
So uh, this is a website that's in the public domain because, and this is again what I've heard across my time at Intuit is uh, we want to be very transparent about what we are assessing the candidate for. So the process should not be a mystery.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
uh, let me
You
just
can
share
go
my
ahead and share this.
screen.
Yeah.
Yep. So I'll share this link with you as well so that you can share with the viewers. But this hiring process is something that's common to most hires at Intuit. So as you can see, the number of steps may vary, but the uh, the setup, the craft demo is the case study that I spoke of, and multiple rounds of interviews is something that's probably common across lateral hires. So when I talk about the details, this may be specific to engineers who may need to set up some kind of coding environment. But if we talk about product specific interviews, this is probably the most important part, the craft demonstration, where they assess us on the basis of how we solve problems and the approach we have for implementing solutions. uh, we may ask as many questions along the way. In fact, they encourage us even during the interview at multiple points. They told me, like, please feel free to ask as many clarifying questions as you want because they want it more to be a discussion. Then the other aspects are more rounds with more assessors. So we have a couple of assessors that are nominated. So we have this internal training that helps us be interview viewers as well to understand how to evaluate candidates. So we have interviews with these assessors. We have an interview with a team member to understand what kind of work we'll be doing, what our responsibilities may look like, and we may have a manager interview with the recruiting manager or the director of the function.
Great. So fair enough to say that I think after the CV shortlist, it would be more around 4 to 5 rounds to for the end-to-end process.
That's correct. Yes.
Thanks a lot, Tilak, for sharing this. Moving to our next set of questions, we spoke much about the CV shortlisting process. So, can you throw some light on how should be a product manager resume looks like?
Yeah. So this is based off my admittedly limited understanding, but a couple of things that I always share with any juniors that may ask, with again the disclaimer that take this with a pinch of salt. But I feel one thing that I really do is try to focus more on my impact or my contribution. Generally, when you come from a technology background, such as myself, which is the one of the common ways to enter product management, uh, there is a lot of numbers that you can show that was your project's impact. But at the same time, you should also focus on the kind of impact that you as an individual contributor as well as a team member had on that project. The second thing that I always look at, and this is especially pertinent to your work experience points, is I try to see behind each line or behind each point, what is the quality that is coming out. Some points may bring out technical expertise. Some points may show teamwork. some may show accountability, etc. So my goal is one, each point should bring out one or two very clear qualities, and two, I will try to focus on the qualities that I think the company may be looking for or may be relevant to my role, and also to keep like a good variety of qualities so that not all points bring out reflect the same thing in you. That's the second point. And third is more of a sanity check, but at least for me, readability is a big must, because a lot of these MBA CVs you may have noticed are just like shortened numbers trying to cram as much as possible in the limited space possible. But I had a big emphasis in my own CV to make it as legible or readable as possible, even at the cost of sacrificing a one or two lines about some other area of mine. So these are like the top two or three things I tried to focus on when it came to my CV.
Great. And our final question, Tilak, how can someone, an aspiring candidate, get into a product role at Intuit?
Okay, this is a this can be a very long answer because there I can't say literally, but there are infinite ways possible. The general uh, path to a product role is through like I've seen a lot of candidates come in from multiple backgrounds. So we have someone coming from a technology background, we have someone coming from an accounting background because uh, like our firm deals with financial accounting software, economics backgrounds, etc. Most candidates come from a technology background like engineering, followed by a role in an IT job. Uh, an MBA is sufficient but not necessary. I was very lucky to get into through the campus placement process at our college, and we do have a lot of product managers that come from MBA colleges, but again, are not necessary to get a product role at Intuit. I think we also look for a lot of candidates that have startup experience because uh, one thing that I've heard from my mentors is startup people who work at startups show a lot of high agency, like they take a lot of responsibility in differing areas, which is really useful when you want a product role at a company like Intuit. So if I had to like categorize the usefulness of different experiences, I would say the best way to get into a product role is to have product experience. But that notwithstanding, if you have some kind of proxy projects that you've worked on that are independent, that show certain qualities that are required from a product manager at Intuit, that would be the next best thing. There are obviously certifications and courses that you can take, but uh, in terms of priority, I would put it above below the first two, which is have product experience or have projects that showcase product experience.
I think that pretty much summarizes this. And I think if any of the viewers who are either falling into that bucket, I would definitely encourage you to please reach out to Tilak for referrals. And as he mentioned, referrals are a good way to get into the light of the recruiters. I think Tilak would be more than happy to help you guys with that.
For sure.
Perfect. Okay. Before we wind up, any last piece of advice to all the aspirant product managers or the product managers in the community?
Uh, I would just say that I feel extremely lucky to have started my career at Intuit. It like it's not often that I one can only say positive things, but the kind of coaching, mentorship that I've had here, the kind of support which really comes out in times like these where people have been impacted by the COVID-19 crisis, the kind of growth or the learning opportunities that I've seen here, like I am extremely privileged to be working at a company like this, and I hope that some of this may help potential aspirants who are looking to join this company. I'm hoping for two new team members there.
Absolutely. So it was really nice talking to you, Tilak, and getting to know about your entire journey, interview experience, and how you're currently working in Intuit. And we wish you all the best for all your upcoming challenges. Take care. Thank you so much, Tilak.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Arsun. Thank you so much.